Hello and welcome back to the Kiran Roberts podcast. Today's a bit different. Today I'm just going to riff. I'm probably just going to talk about some thoughts that are on my mind. So if it's something that you don't want to listen to, if you were coming to the podcast to listen to something actionable, then it's all good. See you later. But if you want to hear me rant and talk about my thoughts about passion and purpose and what my journey has looked like and where it's going, then stay tuned, because we're going to get deep and we're going to talk about my journey. Because I think at some level, we're all the same. At some level, we all experience similar things. We all experience similar challenges and problems. And even though they look different and they're shaped different, we all suffer through the same meta problems, whether it's identity, whether it's race, whether it's money, whether it's midlife crisis. That's why these cliches exist, because we all experience similar things. And when I think about my journey, even within the past couple of weeks, man, it changes as we go. And the one thing that I hold to is the fact that I am executing. I look at myself over the past few weeks and, I could find 700 reasons to judge myself. And you could as well. I mean, you could have come to a certain point in your journey where you've looked back and you think, man, I've come so far. I can't stop. I need to keep going. I need to finish the degree. I need to do my tenure. But you don't want to and you're not passionate about it, and so you judge yourself. And for me, I mean, as I said in the Wes podcast, I feel like I have just started. I've just started posting stuff. I've just started to put my voice out there. But even within that small journey, I've started to change a little bit about what I do. And it's easy. It would be easy for me to judge myself and look at what I've done and think, man, look at me. I said and I pushed myself and I put myself out there as this. And now only a few weeks in, I don't feel it. So what do? Well, there's a thing that happens when you're true to yourself. I think when you're true to yourself and you really know who you are, well, it doesn't matter what people think. The one thing that I've learned in my failures, and I failed a crap ton, is that the ability to not judge yourself like you don't judge others is really the key to your success. If you want to really be unique and push yourself out there and succeed in whatever you want to do, you cannot judge yourself. And I mean, that's been my whole life. I wrote a blog post for Naked Billy, for Nicole's page, my girlfriend, and I talked about the fact that my entire life I was living out other people's expectations and dreams for me. Man, I was a storyteller. Growing up, I loved to tell a story. And when I think about that, going a bit deeper, I wasn't just a storyteller, I was a salesman. Anyone that has heard me preach up the front of church, anyone that has heard me do any public speaking knows that I am a salesman. I take ideas, I take people, I take packages of something, whatever that may be, and I sell. When I was in grade 11, I was in detention more times than you could count. I wrote lines for Missed Uniform. Grade 12, I was school captain. I wasn't the smartest. I definitely wasn't the most successful in the academic side of things. But I became school captain off the back of one thing: selling myself. I had to sell myself. And when it came time for the speeches, when it came time for rallying attention, I absolutely crushed it. And so when people saw that gift in me, they thought that was meant to be for the church. I was a Christian growing up, for those of you who don't know. And there's a weird thing that happens when you are gifted in certain areas within Christianity, especially speaking, is that you become boxed in to be the preacher, as if the entire job of a pastor is to preach. Anyone that knows anything about church is most preachers only preach once a week on either Saturday or Sunday. But I was a good public speaker. Really, I was a good salesman. That's what I really was. And they boxed me in. And it became an avenue for me to get attention. And it became an avenue for me to feel accepted and wanted. And I was raised up to be put on a pedestal. And when you do that, you inevitably follow that, because you get the applause, you get the claps. And, I was never good at sport. I joked in the blog post that when it came time for sports, I was always the first person to get picked, because my athlete friend Chad always used to pick me because he felt bad. Like seriously, we'd play anything, cricket, AFL, basketball. He'd always be captain because he was an absolute stud athlete. Chad, I hope you're still playing sports if you're listening. But he would always pick me first, not because he knew that I was an asset to his team, but because he knew if I didn't get picked first, I would get picked last. And this was on the back of my dad being an absolute stud athlete. I mean, he played sports all his life, even when he got a bit unfit into his older age. I mean, he was still playing cricket, indoor cricket, until he was 60. And I was his son, and I was not athletic. I loved sports, but it wasn't who I was. So I had to find ways to get attention and get affection in other ways. I also talk in the blog post about the fact that when I was in primary school, for show and tell, I had a daily show basically where I would get up and I would tell these messed up horror stories to kids. I mean, messed up. I would talk about decapitation and worms coming out of dead bodies, and I would lure them in and I would bring them into this story and then jump scare them. And it was always me selling myself. I was trying to sell something. I wasn't just a storyteller. I was a salesman, OG salesman. And, you know, I did the car wash thing. I was a little hustler. But the one thing I tried to sell most was my story. And so when I found something I was good at, storytelling, when I found something that I excelled at, what happened? I sold it. And I accepted it as my dream and my passion and my purpose. I graduated as school captain. I don't know how. That year was like impeccable for me. My uniform was always done. My grades weren't the best because school never really fit into what the learning style that I have. I'm a very specific learner, and school just didn't do it for me. But people said I was to be a pastor. I was meant to be a pastor. I was called to be a pastor. So I went to university and I studied theology and ministry to become a pastor. And a lot happened. I got major depressed. I had a bad breakup that really messed me up, which was inevitably my fault. It was on the back of me just being a miserable piece of crap human being, treating people the wrong way. And I got bad depression, just a confused identity, because I was selling something that I didn't even believe in. I didn't even believe in myself. I didn't want to be that person. I had other dreams. I mean, I've always loved people. I've always had a connection and a love for people. But I didn't ever think that it would be funneled in the way that I took it, that is being a pastor. I'm a free spirit. So for me to even accept and go into a job where I'm so restricted in what I can say and do just doesn't align with who I am, but I still did it. And I got to the point where my depression caught up with me, and so I left theology. I left the degree. I took some time off. And I just sat in a space of silence alone. I didn't really do anything for the next few years. I worked a few random jobs, but I didn't really pursue anything. And it was really hard. I was lucky that I had a few really good people around me, my family, my mum and dad, who, despite me absolutely screwing up every step of the way, have always stood by me. My brother, who has just been an absolute rock for me. The most important person, Nicole, my girlfriend, was just so important in helping me constantly. I mean, to have a person that still believes that you could chase a dream even though you're such a screw-up is absolutely invaluable. And I think it was that example that really helped me find what I want to do. And that's helping other people find their passions and dreams and live that out in their purpose. And so, give me a second. I didn't turn my phone on airplane mode. I hope it didn't ruin the audio. So, yeah, so off the back of that, having, you know, been in this state of absolute depression and having people around me to support me, I realised what my true passions and my purpose were, and that was to help other people. And I think that's one of the reasons why I went to do theology and ministry, because I could see the benefits. I could see the calling beyond the theology to the help of people. And some of my pastor friends are some of the most beautiful people in the world. They actually help people, and they're doing the work of the gospel, if that's your thing. And so when I started this podcast, when I started putting more content on Instagram, I thought, again, it's funny, even though I thought this exact thought about living your true self and not living other people's dreams and expectations, I thought it was still my dream to do that. Do more Jesus stuff, do more gospel direct stuff. Not that I don't believe in it, because again, I'm a Christian through and through. I don't care what your religion is, but that's who I am. And then I did that for a few weeks and I got nothing. No real interaction or engagement, no real follower growth. Again, that's not the goal, but the market will tell you whether your stuff is good or not. And I put it to the market and I got really nothing back. In fact, I initially got a big spike and then it went down. And I don't think that was because people don't believe in the stuff I was putting out. I think there are people who follow my Instagram page that really love Jesus and want to know more. I think fundamentally it was because I wasn't being true to myself. I think fundamentally I was still, in a way, living out the expectations and dreams of other people. Still. I was still doing that. I was still trying to be someone I wasn't. And it's only been within the past few weeks, again, after reiterating my calling and my passions, again, that I've really stopped and literally said, Kiran, you need to figure out who you are. I want to start writing a book and I want to give it to you for free, and it's all about finding your passion and living your purpose, and then maybe how we get paid to do that. The paid section would be off the back of people who have actually done it, and it'll just be me documenting how I want to do it and how you can do it. But the passion and the purpose thing is really my findings of the experiment of my life and how I've done it. The reason why now I want to transition this podcast, even after such a short time, and why I'm not scared to do it because I don't judge myself, is because I have a need and this desire to live according to who I am at my deepest self. And I am of the belief that if you don't do that yourself, you may never be happy. Now, again, I've said this before, I realize that some of you are doing a job or in a position where your dream is the next position and you're just hustling while you can, working a job that you don't like to get to where you need to be. But ultimately, your dream is still on your mind as much as you can, and that passion, that dream aligns with who you are. But some of you actually think you're in the penthouse of your life and you've arrived, and you're actually in the wrong building entirely. A few weeks ago, I started climbing that wrong building thinking that I need to get to the penthouse. This is my calling. I want to be the next Rob Bell. I don't want to be the next Rob Bell. I have a passion for Jesus and a passion for my calling. I just think it looks different. I think God is calling me to something different. And that's the reason why I have never, ever, ever been happy framing my life that way. And so I'm trying to reframe. Maybe I was the person that caused broken relationships with my friends and my loved ones because I was never living my true self, and therefore I was never happy. And if that's true, which I would put money on that fact it's true, the only person I can blame is myself, because I'm in control and you are in control as well. And so I really want this podcast. I'm not going to be a career advisor, anything BS like that. I don't want to be I don't want to be Tony Robbins. I want to be the person that helps you find your passion and then live that passion to fulfill your purpose of helping others. And along that journey of me doing that, let's figure out how we can get paid for it. I'm not an expert. I am simply documenting my process as you do the same. I really think the next level in the age of the internet, in the age of us not being judgmental towards ourselves, in the age that we live in that is not like our grandparents, when the Great Depression caused you to have to hustle no matter what. You had to do the job you hated because you would die. We aren't in that position anymore. In that age, I think it is more important than ever for you to do what makes you happy. Because when you do what makes you happy, you maximize your potential to help others. And when you maximize your potential to help others, for me as a Christian, I believe you maximize your opportunity to spread the gospel and actually do what God called you to do. And if you don't believe in God, to actually help the world become a better place. And if you don't want that, if you don't want to make the world a better place, then this podcast is not for you. I don't know what is for you. But that's essentially what I wanted to say today on my rant. And that's going to be me doing a daily podcast, I hope, talking about this stuff, really helping you. But on the back of that, also interviewing people, and not just experts who have found their passion and living their purpose, but I want to sit down with people and help them find their passion and live their purpose, and then bring that content to you so you don't have to feel alone. So I put a post on my Facebook. I'm putting it now on my podcast. The content is going to change. And some of you may look at me and laugh and think, wow, classic. He started something and didn't finish. I don't care. You can say that. I don't judge myself. I look at the long term of me being happy and realize that this is more important. And if you get that, then you won't laugh at me either. You'll be like, okay, he's trying to live his truest sense of who he is. And that changes for me every day. It will change for you every day. It doesn't matter. Who cares? Don't look backwards. Look forwards. Look at the next episodes. Look at the next videos. And let's try and figure out who we are, find our passions, live our purpose, work out how to get paid, and do this together. I really think we can start something incredible. I really think that you can live out your purposes and live out your passions and actually be happy in this age. I really think the internet has given you an opportunity that you don't even realize, especially if you've been listening to your mum and dad from generations who couldn't do this. You need to get on the right path. You need to get with the times, and you need to look to the future, because happiness can be yours in this age. I really believe that. What Nicole is doing with Naked Billy, I believe is going to change. She is building an empire that will change the world for women. And I believe she will make a career out of it 100%, because she's bringing value just unapologetically, unequivocally, no matter what. And that's something that I admire. And that's something that we both want to do. And so come along on our journey. And I hope that through that journey, you could find some peace in finding your passion and living your purpose and figuring out how to get paid. The 4 Ps. God bless. I love you. Have a good one. See you next rant.